Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is Empowering Astrology for the week of November 1st through 7th, 2021. It's November. I was going to say it's eclipse season, but it also is eclipse season because now that it's November, and more when we get into the Scorpio new moon this week, we are actually officially starting eclipse season. So more on that in a moment, but just want to quickly introduce myself and say hello to those that are watching live. My name is Katie Sweetman, and I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in the New York City area. And every week we gather live. I know some of you watch on YouTube or listen on Spotify, kind of getting more people reach out or more clients reach out that have found me on Spotify. But we look at the astrology, and to understand that astrology is energy. And energy, it has this like kind of archetypical energy. That's why your sun sign has a certain flavor and feel and energy to it. And you live that energy in your own way because you are 50%, and then the other 50% is the astrology. Astrology is 50%. Did that backwards. Astrology is 50%, and you are the other 50%. So you give life to your sun sign. You give life to the astrology, whether the astrology is difficult or not. And, I'm going to be completely honest. The astrology of November is a little difficult. Difficult does not equal bad. It just requires more of us, and it requires for us to do something with this energy. But we are in Scorpio season, and I spoke a little bit. I called last week's show the Scorpio show. By the way, you guys got to see my dog got like video bombed by my dog Miguel. I think he's in another room sleeping, but maybe he'll show up. But yeah, so we are in Scorpio season, and I was talking about archetypical energy. So Scorpio, 8th sign of the zodiac. There's 12 in total, in case that's new information to you. And when we get to Scorpio, we are in that space between life and death. It's no coincidence that Halloween or today, it's All Souls Day. There's a sense of like connecting with the ancestors, lighting candles for those who have passed on. Because when we get to Scorpio, we're in that midpoint between this world and the next world. In fact, and this is a little bit of a technical note, because yesterday, as I record this, yesterday was Halloween. Halloween, back in a long time ago, used to line up to the midpoint, the middle of Scorpio. So the midpoint of Scorpio would be 15 degrees of Scorpio, this technical point. And over time, that midpoint has drifted because the sky is actually not fixed. It's constantly, but slowly drifting. The drift is about 1 degree for every 72 years. So maybe 1,000 plus years ago, the 1st of November was around the midpoint of Scorpio. Not so much anymore. Maybe 2,000 years ago. I don't know what the exact math is at the moment, but now, so the real Halloween is probably more like November 7th-ish, because that's when we reach the middle of Scorpio. And the middle of the fixed signs recap: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. In the middle, typically, historically, in different cultures, there's some sort of festival. Samhain, in the Celtic tradition, Halloween, as we know it now. But that would have been the midpoint between the fall equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere and the winter solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. So yeah, we're here in the midpoint between the equinox and the solstice. And we reach the middle of Scorpio, although technically we're not quite there yet. We have, the equinox here in the Northern Hemisphere. The fall equinox is equal day, equal night. And then we start to descend into the dark. And then the darkest day, of course, is the winter solstice, when we have the least amount of daylight. But to mark that midpoint where we are truly descending into the darkness, that's Scorpio season. Scorpio season is to go into the darkness, metaphoric darkness, our own darkness, meteorological darkness. If you're here in the Northern Hemisphere like I am, I'm here in the New York City area. For those who don't know, that's actually New Jersey behind me. It's not New York City, although if you were to kind of tilt your head to my left, your right, you would see Manhattan. But anyway, yes, so we are at that midpoint between the seasons, and so Scorpio is an archetype of having to surrender to forces that are greater than us. We have no power over death, whether it's a literal death or the times in life where life demands that we die so that we may be reborn. And that's what Scorpio season is. And it brings up a lot of deep emotions. Scorpio's intimacy and vulnerability and trust, being able to trust people to be there in those real moments in life. And Scorpio certainly is about the real moments of life. And this is no discredit to Libra, but Libra talks about relationships on a surface level. That level of connection, like the how are you? How do we make things balanced and equal? But when you get into Scorpio, there is no BS. Like, you have to get to the heart of a matter, throat chakra, and relationships. And so intimacy and vulnerability. I sort of kind of give you all these key words because even though, this week we're right on the edge of a new moon in Scorpio, which I'll get to in a moment, and that's going to open up this lunar month where we have to do the work. We have to face ourselves. We have to be tested by life. We have to look into our psyche, examine our unconscious or subconscious, face our fears, try to be more vulnerable. The irony about Scorpio is that it's a sign of transformation. But if you know a Scorpio, the last thing they want to do is let go of power. So it's like, Scorpio season's about letting go, but sometimes it's not on our terms. And I think that's really at the heart of this upcoming Scorpio new moon. It's like we have to let the universe, however you want to define that, do its work. Doesn't mean we don't have free will. That's where the 50% you part comes in. It's like, how are you going to navigate this time and the best way, the most transformative way, the healthiest way? Because Scorpio is a sign that encompasses the darkest of the dark, but it also shows that we can transcend that darkness, transcend our obsessions, our compulsions, our need to destroy, our need to annihilate, in order to learn something about ourselves, more through our chakra. And when we get to Sagittarius season, I know we're not there yet. Sagittarius is so famous for its wisdom and knowledge, a sign of philosophy and faith and higher education and world travel. But how does it get its wisdom and knowledge? Well, you have to go through Scorpio first. So that's where we are in our archetypical journey. But I see some familiar faces on the live chat. Do say hello. I'd like to see you week in and week out. I know you all are around the world, which is pretty cool. So we're also getting into eclipse season, which I alluded to earlier. I am doing a webinar, shameless plug. I'm doing a webinar on Thursday, November 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can go to the show notes and register online, or you can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com, to register. This webinar will be about a 90-minute webinar. It will look at what eclipses are, what the eclipses, because they are starting to switch out of Gemini and Sagittarius, and they're going into Scorpio and Taurus, and what that shift means for you, and also what this eclipse season means for your sign, and how to work, of course, with this energy the best we can with eclipses, because eclipses, they tend to just be very quick energy. And one of the analogies I use over and over again about eclipses, it's like you're watching a theatrical performance and the curtain comes down on one act and the curtain comes up on the next act, and it may mean that when the curtain comes up on the next act, there might be a completely different set, completely different cast, something dramatic. That's the thing about eclipses, you just don't fully know, but you do know thematically what it's going to encompass because of the signs that it's in or the placement in your chart. But these eclipses, at least the one that's going to be in December, is starting to close out a story that began in June of 2020 when we had our first eclipse in Sagittarius. So yes, go to my website, empoweringastrology.com, to learn more about this webinar, to register. I'm also, I'm just sharing everything. I'm also teaching, starting to teach people astrology. So I'm doing my first live Module 1 class on Saturday, November 13th at 12 p.m. Eastern. That is also in the show notes. You get, in the live class, you get 4 hours of intimate online teaching, but then you also get the additional 4 hours of online content for you to learn at your own pace. So anyway, let's talk about the astrology of this week of November, almost at October, November 1st through 7th, 2021. So, speaking of throat chakra, as we open up the week, Mercury is coming to the end of Libra. It's been in Libra since the end of September. I think it was like September 30th. No, that's not correct. That's when Mercury would turn retrograde. It's been in Libra since August 30th. See, that's a long time for Mercury to be in one sign, but that's what happens when Mercury turns retrograde. It will spend 9-10 weeks in one sign. It's been in Libra. Mercury, planet of voice and communication. So we've needed to learn to find consensus. These are all Libra keywords: consensus, negotiate, to find balance in how we speak and communicate, really be more empathic about what other people need and how other people feel. But here's the tricky part. Mercury, during its retrograde phase, it was in a square to Pluto. And Pluto as a force, Pluto's a modern planet, so it works differently than your classical personal planets like Mercury. Pluto is trying to get Mercury to transform by any means possible. And usually that's one of two ways. It's trying to show Mercury where it is disempowered, it's not using its voice, and other people try to be the voice for you. Also, Pluto will hold a mirror to us. It tries to reveal what is in our unconscious, our blind spots. So how we think and listen and communicate in relationships or communicate with other people, that has had to transform. So we will have 3 squares between Mercury and Pluto. It's a bit intense, especially if you are a mutable sign, my Geminis, Virgos, Pisces, and Sagittariuses. But Mercury has been in this really kind of sharp square to Pluto, and we had 3 squares starting at I think it was like the 25th-ish of September, and then again in October. But this one closes out the story, and we have our last square tomorrow, November 2nd, 2021. Later this week, Mercury will go into Scorpio, a little breath of fresh air, although not quite, because so much going on in Scorpio at the moment. It's just going to be a little bit more the same, but a very different type of sign than Libra, of course. So we have that last square, and I think that it's important to reflect on the role of relationships, or the role of communication in relationships over the last 9 weeks. What has transformed? How have you needed to soften your voice, or claim your voice, or speak differently, or listen differently, or negotiate? So that wraps up. And then we, on November 4th, have the Scorpio new moon. So the first Monday, the second, and the third, this is something called a balsamic moon, which means we are at the end of a lunar cycle. This lunar cycle began on October 6th of 2021. Lunar cycle, the lunar month, 28 to 29 days. So we're closing out a Libra lunar month this week. So the conventional wisdom is that when you are closing out a lunar month, it's not the best or most auspicious time to start something, because the lunar light is at its faintest. We're sort of letting go, releasing, preparing for the next lunar month. So, use Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This might be a day off if you are in Australia and New Zealand. I apologize. I guess that would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for you to prepare to release, to think about the coming lunar month, which is going to have a lot going on. Then again, we have the new moon on November 4th. This new moon will be at 12 degrees of Scorpio. That degree is a little bit of a technical point. If some of you don't know what I mean by degrees, a little side note, the wheel, the sky, you can divide it into 360 degrees. Why? Because it's a circle. And then divide that into 12 sections for the zodiac signs, and then break it down even more into 29 to 30 degrees. So that new moon at 12 degrees is going to be right on opposite Uranus and Taurus. That's going to be interesting. And making a square to Saturn in Aquarius. So this is some intense energy. Why? All throughout 2021, there have been two planets that have been making something called a square. That's 90 degrees. And those two planets are Saturn and Uranus. Saturn, typically the energy is more about kind of playing it safe, building, constructing, doing the right thing, setting bar higher. It's a little bit more of a traditional planet, doesn't, like to make big waves. Uranus, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's about revolutions, awakenings, breakthroughs, breakdowns, a need to get out of anything that is either holding us back, imprisoning us, or is not in alignment with who we are. So two very different energies. They can work together, but it's like Saturn has to learn to build something very new. Whatever it's building, it has to be completely in alignment with who we are in our authenticity, as overused as that word is these days. It means that whatever we are reaching towards, our goals and our ambitions and our systems and our networks, everything has to evolve and transform. Uranus, on the other hand, it's in Taurus. Taurus typically, these are all fixed signs, by the way. That's why I keep saying all year long, like the fixed signs aren't so fixed at the moment. Taurus typically doesn't want things to change. Its job, its instinctual, inbuilt job as a sign and as an archetype is to keep things the same so that life can flourish. Because Taurus is fertility. It's the opposite of Scorpio. Scorpio says all things will die. And then Taurus says, but things will be reborn. There will be spring again. There will be flowers. There will be life again. And Taurus's job is to maintain that stability, so that life can flourish. But you have Uranus, which is the planet of revolutions and awakenings, and it feels like an earthquake at the moment. So this is why a lot of the analogy that I've been using this year, it's like we have 1 foot in a new life, 1 foot in an old life, 1 foot on one tectonic plate in our life, 1 foot on another tectonic plate. And that, those two plates are moving in different directions. We got to figure out how to resolve that tension. All of us are handling this differently. It's not easy. I say this as a fixed sign. I'm a Scorpio. This is pretty intense stuff. But what is coming out of this time is that we are being pushed out of our comfort zones. And I think that's a good segue into this new moon, because Scorpio inherently is about getting us out of our comfort zones. It's about that emotional charge and that emotional discomfort that is necessary to life, which is ironic because Scorpio is a sign that's about death, because you need this energy in order to create something very new in our life. Then we have a sun opposite Uranus, and it's important to understand that this new moon sort of galvanizes a lot of the changes that we've been making since Uranus first arrived in Taurus. This would be in May of 2018, March of 2019. So I often ask my clients what was going on around May, June 2018, March, April 2019, because those are, in a lot of people's lives, those are really distinct pivot points, or quite close around that. Kelly, just like these plates are getting on her boobies. It's the thing. We go into the new year and we do have the last Saturn-Uranus square on December 24th, which will make the holidays very interesting. But we do go into the new year, and there's like a this Capricorn new moon just after the new year, and then there's a Aquarius new moon on February 1st, and it's like things are still moving around. Like, it's like psychic musical chairs. We don't quite know where everything's landing at the moment, which can feel very uncomfortable. So I think that with this Scorpio new moon, we have to face our fears. We have to get uncomfortable. We have to be vulnerable. We have to do the inner work. We have to open up. We have to be willing to let something go, to let something, air quotes, die, so that something else can come in its way. And this new moon, it's square Saturn. So we're trying to put our big person pants on and grow up and take the next steps and those big milestones in our life. It was both 2018 and 2019, Juliet. Like I said, step up into these big milestones in our life, but at the same time, do things radically different. Mars, as of October 30th, is now in Scorpio. Mars gives a lot of power and life to this new moon. So it's my feeling that things are going to start to move very quickly after the 4th. I could be wrong, but this new moon is opening up a lunar month that has a lunar eclipse in it. So November 19th, we have a lunar eclipse in Taurus at 27 degrees. When you go into a new month, a new lunar month, especially one that has an eclipse in it, things start to move along. If you are stuck, use the Scorpio new moon to do the deep psychic inventory of why you're stuck. Are you stuck because you are afraid of letting go? That's often when people come to me, they're stuck is because there's this it's like they have to know what's going to happen. They have to be in control of the outcome. Look, I'm human too. I'm not saying this as a criticism, but what happens is that the energy gets stuck. Nothing can flow and we get stuck. So maybe you're stuck, maybe you're not stuck, but use this new moon to examine like what's behind being stuck. Why has everything ground to the halt? Because astrology is why I often say astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%, because astrology can pass our spy. And I don't want this this lunar month to pass you by. I mean, yes, it's difficult astrology. Remember, difficult's not bad, but it can do something. It can do something hopefully very positive if you put it to work in the right ways. But it is pushing things along, and I do feel that this month, it's one of those bigger months in 2021. It's one that I've had my eye on when I first sat down with the astrology, because I was like, ooh, Mars is going to be in Scorpio. This is going to be fun. But this new moon also connects to August astrology, because that August astrology that we had, it was sort of at that midpoint of the eclipses. And so I think that August is going to somehow have a hand or a thread or a connection to what's going on in November. Also happening this week on November 5th, Mercury enters Scorpio. I alluded to that already, and it joins the party. So Mercury in Scorpio, it's typically like the classic detective. It has to get to the bottom of things. It's typically a smart sign. It's a very sharp sign, a sign that kind of gets things quickly and can reach into this endless well of information that is gathered in order to use it, hopefully positively, not against its enemies. No, that's a joke. It's a Scorpio joke. But yeah, Mercury is going to be in Scorpio, and it's going to sort of meet up with all these energies throughout the month. That should be interesting. And then Venus also goes into Capricorn on November 5th. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, because Venus as the ruler of the eclipse that we're going to have on November 19th, it's like it's going into a cardinal sign. So I think we're going to start to get some preview of that eclipse on November 19th. So Venus is what we love, it's what we value. It teaches us about other people's needs and desires and how do we socialize and interact and communicate, but also the fertility and the money, because Venus is also the ruler of Taurus. So in Capricorn, it tends to be a little bit more fiscally conservative. It wants to build towards the future. It has a strong sense of power and wealth. There's sometimes another side of Venus and Capricorn is that it can be a little bit austere or a little bit trying to find its connection to wealth, to stability, to fertility. But that's sort of the range you can experience in Venus. But I always think of Venus as sort of this, like, it wants luxury, but it wants luxury not for luxury's sake. It wants things that are well made and sort of are symbols of achievement. And, really honestly, you can do Venus and Capricorn your own way, because it's, at the end of the day, it's not about money. But we do live in a material world. But that said, we got those two big changes happening later this week, Scorpio new moon. So let's look at the astrology for the 12 signs. I'll try and make this as brief as possible because we've got a lot to cover. This Scorpio new moon, like, where is it falling in each of the 12 signs, and what is it opening up? So Aries. Aries, Scorpio is your 8th sign. So you are what's called a natural chart, and you have that sort of natural overlay, meaning Scorpio season is that time to face yourselves. And this is also your 8th sign. So you're in this 4-week period, this new lunar month, where you have to do the work. It is unavoidable. When you are in what I like to call the 8th room, it's like, don't do it alone. You need somebody to help you and guide you, because you're going through your symbolic or proverbial underworld. If you have been putting off dealing with something, or putting off, really facing or feeling something, it's really going to start to come up with the Scorpio new moon, because that well inside of you is deep. Scorpio, it's a very deep sign, especially now with Mars in Scorpio. So Aries, with Mars, your planet, also in Scorpio, maybe you're having to face your fears. Maybe you're having to transform. Maybe you're going to have to go and sort of have that sort of proverbial death and rebirth at this time. It's also a time to focus on themes around power and control and intimacy and vulnerability. And this is also a money sign for you, Aries. So looking at money, assets, finance, wealth, working with a financial advisor, doing estate planning. I know this doesn't sound very exciting, but you know what? I'm a Scorpio. We are the sign of wealth and money. Make sure your estate planning is up to date, but also dealing with debt and taxes. But that said, I think the real wealth of Scorpio and the real wealth of the 8th sign is to, when we do that inner work, we discover the real wealth of Scorpio. So it's got a lot of buttons pushing this season, especially with Mars, your planet. And I think with Uranus over in your 2nd sign, you've got to break away from something. It could be a limiting belief about money, or it could be a limiting belief about power and control, or self-worth, or value, relationships. With Venus going to Capricorn, you're probably going to have to make some relationship decisions as you go into the weekend. Doesn't mean bad, but, also, what do you want your life to look like? What sort of stability and security do you need, whether it's friends, whether it's relationship, in order to make this happen? So it's a bit of an intense new moon for you, Aries. Taurus, you are a fixed sign. We talk about this every week, and how you are in the midst of massive changes. And these are changes that will encompass about 7 years of your life. You're like, holy moly, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years from 2018 all the way to 2025, 2026. So you're sort of in the midpoint, so to speak. And if you are born in late April, you already know what I'm talking about, because you've already experienced it. Life does not look the same. Life does not even look remotely close to what it did probably since 2018. So this new moon is happening in your relationship sign. So this is your natural time in your zodiac calendar to reach out to other people, to start a relationship, to focus on a relationship, or even, if necessary, end a relationship. But this is a season for you to remind you that you can't do life alone. And life requires other people, but it also requires compromise and negotiation. I think the thing that's really a bit hot right now for Taurus is that you have Saturn up in your career sign, really pressing on Taurus to figure out what it wants to be when it grows up. And then you have Uranus in Taurus, and whatever you're doing right now, Taurus, it means that you're having to really awaken to who you really are, transform, get out of your ruts, stop playing it safe, start to make big changes. And that's going to inform the direction that you're heading, the role that you play in the world, the title after your name, the ambitions, and even the hopes and the wishes and dreams for the future. But this is a big time for you, Taurus, and I think especially because you're going to have that full moon on the 19th of November, and I think that this is where the fixed signs, but Taurus in particular, is getting a big push to take the next step in their lives. And this new moon, Taurus, is really putting you at a crossroads in life. It's probably going to start to move fast when you have a eclipse in your sign, which you will, again, November 19th. Typically, you're in the spotlight. Life is a bit loud, and life demands your attention, and maybe you are embarking on a new symbolic phase in your life. But with Venus going into Capricorn later this week, for you, Taurus, Capricorn is your 9th sign. So this is a time when you're really trying to make sense of everything, especially all the ups and downs that you've been over the past few years, and trying to figure out what you believe in and if you have faith after everything. But a bit of a existential time as you go into later this month. Gemini, Scorpio is your 6th sign. So this is your natural time in your personal calendar to focus on work, projects, service, getting your life in order. And I think that when you have the Scorpio new moon, especially with Mars there, you've got like a huge, it's like Scorpio new moon on steroids, if I'm being completely honest. So what does this mean? Like suddenly you want to purge. Scorpio just when it gets that bug, it just wants to start trashing things. So Gemini, what do you want to get rid of? What is not healthy? What is toxic? What is toxic to your body? What is toxic in your work life or toxic in your day-to-day life? How can you then instill new routine, set a new schedule or new rituals, or just have a very different relationship with your day-to-day life, and even your body. And I think with Mars there, you have a lot of energy at the moment. So that energy needs a place to go, whether you put it towards projects, work, hopefully not losing your stuff at work. Mars can be a little bit hot-headed when it's in its own sign, or really going to the gym or taking a walk or getting some fresh air. There's a physicality to this time for you right now, Gemini, to really get that blood pumping. But you're not feeling this the way that the other signs are feeling it. But I think that especially when Mercury, your planet, finally gets out of Libra, finally gets out of that square to Pluto, and it goes into your 6th sign, I think you're really going to be busy, Gemini, as you go into probably the middle of the month. And if Scorpio is your sign of work and projects and your day-to-day real human life, then there is an eclipse coming up in your non-physical life, your spiritual life. So you're really trying to start to feel that bridge between heaven and earth. And I think really starting to think about these existential more. I mean, you probably already have been thinking about them, but these deep existential questions that have been moving inside of you, Gemini, over the past few years. But maybe that's, with all this internal and emotional and psychic movement inside of you, Gemini, how do you make it lived and real and practical and grounded? So yes, get very grounded at this time, because like I said, life's going to start to move very quickly. Cancer. So Scorpio is your 5th sign. So a new moon in the 5th says that this is a lunar month where you need to focus on yourself. And I mean that in the best possible way, because sometimes we forget ourselves. We lose the spark. We get burnt out. We it's all work and it's no play, it's no fun. We don't know who we are. So I think with this new moon, especially with the opposition to Uranus and the square to Saturn, all the deep work that you've been doing, Cancer, with Saturn in your 8th sign, it's like, who are you? You start to, I think the past 11, 12 months for you, and maybe even a little bit longer, if I'm being honest, you've had to strip away a lot of old layers, Cancer. And you start to strip away those layers. Like at this point, we're not at the end of the story. Saturn doesn't leave Aquarius until March of 2023, but what's there? Are you starting to feel yourself at this point, or do you still feel a little disconnected or lost? But I think this new moon is an opportunity to come back to yourself, however you want to define that. And the reality, and I say this to my clients because I often ask them, well, who are you? And it's a little bit of a rhetorical question, but the reality is who we are. It's not the title after our name. It's not our job. It's not our marriage. Who we are is something that lives inside of us. It's an energy. And use this new moon, Cancer, to get back in touch with this energy. You're going to have Mars there. You're going to feel like you are super feeling yourself all month long. So definitely make sure that you are prioritizing your needs, yourself, because certainly, Cancer, you've been doing a lot of deep work and you could use some rest and relaxation at the time, or put yourself in, or do some creative projects, or get that spark back going. I think that Cancer, just as a side note, where you're seeing a lot of the tensions happening right now, is this kind of question about vulnerability and your psyche, all the inner work that you've been doing, but also the changes in relationship that you've been seeing, Cancer, because I think that's one of the biggest things that have been happening this year is hopefully, this is what the idea is, the shift in relationships, whether it's your intimate partnership or how you connect to people on a one-on-one level. So yeah, big month ahead, Cancer. Leo, you are also a fixed sign, and the fixed signs are not so fixed at the moment. So that's the thing about fixed energy. It wants to remain fixed. We need that energy, but Leo, your life is rearranging, and that hasn't been super fun. Maybe, and that's the leap of faith, and maybe, being a Leo, there is a part of you that does believe that at the end of the day, things are going to work out. I think that people forget that Leo's 5th sign is Sagittarius. So yeah, Leo's got that faith and that belief that, despite life's ups and downs, that somewhere, somehow, life's going to work out. But that said, you're a little bit in the ringer this month, Leo, and as I said in my intro, I think that this new moon that we're having on November 4th is connecting to that Leo new moon that we had on August 8th. So I'd go back and I would kind of connect back to that time in your life. But that said, Scorpio for you is your 4th sign. So you have now, this is a season where you're the sort of the furthest, I can't speak English, the part of your personal calendar where you're the least visible. The sun is down at the bottom of the chart. You're in your inner world. It's about your inner life, your roots, your emotional core, family, your home environment, your living situation. So this is a new moon to kind of focus back on what supports you, what feeds you, what nourishes you, and even the sometimes complicated memories that come and the nostalgia that comes up with that. So a new moon in this part of the chart, sometimes there's a move. Sometimes there's a change in the living situation. Somebody moves in, somebody moves out. The family are a big focus over the coming 4 weeks, but really connecting to the things that matter right now. And of course, being a fixed sign, things that are moving and shifting so much, especially around that lunar eclipse that we're having on the 19th. But as things move, like, how do you re-establish your grounding, your psychic grounding, Leo? But that said, you're ruled by the sun. The sun's in Scorpio, so maybe you're feeling this need to make changes, or really feeling deep and powerful emotions. But I think it's important to understand, Leo, that this new moon is activating a story that began in 2018, 2019, May 2018, March of 2019, that began a 7-year chapter of completely reinventing your career or your professional life, how you define yourself in the world. I've seen a lot of Leo risings do 180s in their career. It's not that it's about making a 180 for 180's sake. It's about making sure that whatever you are doing in the world, making candlesticks or raising a family or, really valuing and holding up certain things, that it's truly you. It's not somebody else's concept of family or career or ambitions. Like, you have to really be you, Leo, in your professional life at this time. So your home life, your professional life, and even relationships are on a huge focus right now, because you also have Saturn in your relationship sign. So for Leos, either you are getting into a serious relationship or really feeling like relationship is a big need or a focus right now, getting out of a relationship, restructuring a relationship. But it's a time for Leo to realize that they can't do life alone. They need family, they need a partner, they need, even if it's not a romantic partner, they need other people. So yeah, you're sort of at a crossroads this month, Leo. A lot of big things happening, but I have faith in you. I have faith in that Sagittarius 5th sign of yours. Virgo. See, I'm not going to forget Virgo this month. Virgo, Scorpio is your 3rd sign. So this is a time for you to really focus on voice. Like, how do you speak? And this is the thing. And I read something on Facebook today. It's on Humans of New York. And it was talking about voice. And I was like, yes, it's actually what I talk to my clients. Voice can be 2 things. It can be literally the words out of my mouth right now. But then there's voice, meaning the energy that comes behind the words, whether it's spoken or whether it's written. When I speak on my best day, hopefully not when I'm having throat chakra issues, I have to transmit myself. I have to transmit the reality and the truth of who I am inside on this planet, in this body at this time. There's 8 billion people on this planet. If there's not 8 billion, there's probably really close to 8 billion people on this planet, and we're all individuals. So Virgo, this is a new moon to reconnect to voice and how it shows up in your life. Literally the words out of your mouth are the words that you put on paper or you type, and then what's behind it. So you have to really find the power of what you have to say right now. You have Uranus up in your 9th sign. So the thing that's opening up for you, and what has been opening up, is that you've had to really see the world differently over the past few years. You've had to break away from a lot of deep patterns and grooves in your life and do things differently. But Virgo, you also have Saturn in your 6th sign, and the 6th sign is really getting you to clean up your life, to get back into your body, to get grounded, to focus on health and wellness right now. But that said, you probably have a lot to say at the moment, because you do have Mars in Scorpio in your 3rd sign, and Mars doesn't typically pull punches, and especially when it's in Scorpio, it can have like a really sharp, cut through the nonsense observations on everything. But that said, this is a time when your life is continuing to shift. And I think when Mercury especially gets out of Libra, goes into Scorpio on November 5th, you're probably going to have a lot to say. And further, especially with Mercury in Scorpio, you're going to get a little obsessive about the facts and the details, and maybe have to start researching something. I think that Virgo is kind of a secret Scorpio. It wants to be, has this kind of quiet need to be in control of everything. But I think that that's the other thing to point out to Virgo, is that this month you're not in control. You just have to sort of be in the flow and allow things to happen. It doesn't mean it's a fate. It doesn't mean that you are non-participatory, but to really not hold on so strongly anymore and to let things happen, especially when Mercury, your planet, starts to get in opposition to Uranus and make a square to Saturn. Libra. See, I didn't forget Libra. Libra, Scorpio is your 2nd sign. So this is a new moon that's focused on money, income, value, material stability, material security, and even self self-worth. So Libra, you've got Mars in that part of your chart. It's really about making sure you create material security in your life at the moment. However you want to define that, not everybody needs the same thing, but we are humans and we need heat, hot water, roof over our head. On that basic level, we need food in the kitchen. So you need to make sure that you have your basics secured at the moment, Libra. But that said, maybe you're thinking about how do you make that more? You want to accumulate, you want to gather your resources. But that said, you have Uranus and your other financial sign really shifting and shaking and opening up your sense of safety and security in your life, but also emotional safety and security. And I think for Libra, I think this new moon is really highlighting the story that's been happening all 2021, is that Libra needs to not self-sabotage anymore. I think it's really looking at how you self-sabotage with money, with relationships, with power, with control, and how you sometimes sacrifice who you are. So it's like, yeah, you gotta really take yourself seriously during this time, Libra. But Venus, which is your planet, it does go into Capricorn, and Capricorn is your, do backward math. Capricorn is your fourth sign, so you are coming into a sort of 3-week phase, if I'm doing my math correctly, where it is about home and family. Venus actually is going to be in Capricorn for a while. It will turn retrograde right around Christmas, things like 26th, and it will turn retrograde. So we'll be in Capricorn for quite a while. So start to pay attention to the themes that are coming up, Libra, because these are going to take you into the new year. Scorpio, happy birthday, Scorpio. So new moon in your sign means that it's a new year for you. It's like a sort of sense of renewal, new beginnings. You're setting off on a new direction. Mars is in your sign. You've got a lot of power and strength, Scorpio. You're being a bit impulsive at the moment, but to be fair, you are a Scorpio. Scorpio typically is very strategic in its thinking. That said, you are entering a time where it is about relationships, other people. This new moon is highlighting a bigger story that's been happening in relationships since 2018, 2019. You, Scorpio, have to do relationships completely differently. And I've seen a lot of Scorpio clients who have been single for years, and suddenly somebody comes into their life who is completely different than anybody else, because Scorpio, just a reminder, you have to get out of your way at this time. That said, you've got a lot of strength, you got a lot of power. If your birthday is on or near the new moon, your coming 12 months are going to be a time of powerful new beginnings. Saturn is up in your fourth sign. So this new moon is also playing on this bigger theme of like, where's home? Who's home? So the thing with the fixed signs right now, Scorpio, you are a fixed sign, is that this new moon is really highlighting the four corners of your life. And it's like, big time for you, Scorpio. And I think every Scorpio is going to experience this differently, but it's going to be a big month for you. And you're going to see relationships highlighted. You're going to see home and family highlighted. You're going to see career highlighted, because the sun is in the mix, and the sun is your career planet. But really think strategically as much as you can where you want to go, but at the same time completely open up and surrender to something new, because this is again a time for you to get completely out of your way. So don't over calculate, don't over strategize. Of course, you can know a lot of the different scenarios and have them in the back of your head, but allow this to happen, Scorpio. Sagittarius. So this new moon is happening in your 12th sign. So this is the season that comes right before your birthday season. This is the end of your personal zodiac calendar. So typically this is a time to go within, to rest, to withdraw, to relax. Mars is there. So typically when Mars is in your 12th sign, you don't have a ton of energy. I think all the action with Mars and that Scorpio new moon, the action is happening internally. So it's time to put that energy towards spiritual pursuits, meditation, reflection, inner work, doing dream work, writing down your dreams, maybe really deep stuff's coming from your unconscious, because the 12th is a place where it's a bit of a blind spot for us. There's things that we just don't see when it's in the 12th. But that said, Uranus is in your 6th. This is a time when you are really transforming your day-to-day life. Your day-to-day life probably looks very different than it did 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Health has to shift, your spiritual health, your human, your earthly health has to change. And then you have Saturn over in your 3rd sign. So it's really making different choices in your life, but also taking your voice seriously. Talking about nightmares. Yeah, like big, like stuff's really coming up from the deep unconscious right now for Sagittarius, and really being able to take your voice seriously, to communicate differently, to think and listen and learn, and take classes. But that said, there's a lot of push and pull between your 12th and your 6th, your non-physical spiritual life, and then your physical earthly life. And how do you bridge the divide between heaven and earth right now? And when there is a new moon in the 12th, it's a perfect time, and I say this in case this is relevant to you, to let go of an attachment, something that's a negative connection, an addiction, because this is that place where we really let it go, and we let it transmute and transform to the other side. But that said, I will say Sagittarius, I did allude to eclipse season, even though I only mentioned Taurus. There will be a Sagittarius new moon on December 4th. This is a new moon that is, again, you are in a crossroads. Things are changing. Your planet Jupiter is going to be leaving Aquarius and going back into Pisces on December 28th. So really you're wrapping up a lot of things. I think when you go into your birthday season, it's going to be a bit different, especially once when Mars gets to Sagittarius. I believe it's on the 13th or 14th of December. But that said, maybe things aren't moving the same way as the other signs this month, Sagittarius, but it's happening internally. So use this wisely. Capricorn, and I was having this conversation with my neighbor who's Capricorn. Capricorn's been going through the ringer for a while, since 2008. But I think what's been a little bit hard this year is that Saturn, their planet, has been in this square to Uranus. So Capricorn typically wants everything in a plan, sticking to the plan, building towards the future. But that's everything that's just been going upside down and haywire this year for Capricorn. Capricorn just has to do things differently. It's not that they can't be a Capricorn anymore. I mean, we need Capricorn, but it has to do Capricorn differently. Whether it's creating new goals, creating new structures. I think Capricorn has seen relationships change. It's seen their day-to-day, their money situation shift and change, how they value themselves, self-worth change. But it's been a big time for Capricorn. That said, Scorpio is your 11th sign, so this is a time, and it is a new moon that's about friends, community, the groups and communities that you're a part of, your relationship with humanity, and maybe sometimes when you disconnect from humanity. But that said, Mars is there, you're really feeling motivated, inspired to connect to like-minded people. But there's a tension that's happening. I think that Capricorn with Uranus in the 5th, you have to really open up to who you are. I said this with another sign, but who you are is not your ambitions, it's not your goals, it's not the title after your name, it's not your achievements, it's not Capricornian things. Who you are is inside of you. It's an energy. And the next few years and the past few years are really trying to get you to open up to who you truly are. You can still be a Capricorn. You just have to do it differently, and you will do it differently when you trust yourself and you really get connected to who you are within. I don't know who needs to hear this, Capricorn, but that message was directly for you. But it's not quite the lunar month that it is for other signs, but you will be feeling this a really personal way, like something tectonic has to shift in some way. Let it shift, Capricorn. Throat chakra. Let it shift, Capricorn, because just it's don't fight it. That's the thing. Capricorn is so used to holding on so tightly, but don't fight it. I'm Cindy Morgan's like, it's me. But yes, I'm trying to make sure I get this before the end of the hour. But Aquarius, I'm rushing a little bit. Aquarius, fixed sign, you are in the ringer. I'm using that word again. Aquarius, a lot of things have to shift, and you've been seeing a lot of those shifts personally. You've been seeing them in your home environment, your living situation. You've been seeing them in relationships. And you're also seeing it in your career. And Scorpio is career for you. Excuse me. So this is a time when you're at a career peak. Mars is in your career sign, and it is in your career sign every 2 years. It's not your only career peak, but this is a new moon where you might have a career change, a new job change, hopefully not job loss, fingers crossed. But this is a time where your professional life has to be completely in alignment with who you are, because the personal changes that you are making, Aquarius, now have to translate in different areas of your life. But this is going to be a really hot lunar month for you because you will have an eclipse in your sign of home and family. So something about home and family and living situation is changing. Maybe it already has. That's the thing about eclipses. Sometimes they show up before, which is crazy. Time is a flat circle. That's probably the most Aquarian thing I can say right now. But yeah, time is a flat circle, Aquarius, but you have to let go. You have to let this, whatever has to move, it has to move. And that's the thing about the fixed signs right now. You can't be fixed. So figure out how you're going to shift and bend and allow yourself to flow in a very different way, Aquarius. Pisces. Here we are, Pisces. A lot of, Pisces, Scorpio is your 9th sign. So this is your time in your personal calendar where you're really focusing on your faith, your truth, your meaning, how you see the world, higher education. I think this is a new moon where you have to get very clear about what you believe in, what's your convictions, what do you stand for, what is right and what is wrong. And with Mars there, it's probably not going to be very diplomatic. You're probably going to really have some opinions that you want to share now. So just, FYI, in case you don't want to ruffle too many feathers. But I will say that if you are a writer or if you publish, Mars in that part of your chart does give you a lot of push to get your ideas out there. So that can help you if you are a writer, Pisces. But that said, there is this tension that's happening especially with the opposition to Uranus, where your personal, how you think and listen and learn and communicate and speak, throat chakra, has to radically shift. And you are in some way in the midst of a radical shift, even though it's not as evident as the other signs. But Jupiter is in Aquarius. It's sort of picking up all these energies. And I think that right now, Pisces is in a little bit of a liminal space because Aquarius is your 12th sign. And I think that Pisces, be very mindful about what you're still holding on to, because when Jupiter crosses back into Pisces, and this will be December 28th, later, and this will be 2023, March of 2023, Saturn will join it. The things that you bring with you when a major planet crosses from the 12th to the 1st, it's with you. So use this time to really figure out, do the deep existential work, the inner work, and let go. This is stuff that you really want to let go of, Pisces. But I think that there's a sense of, with Mars, is really emboldening you. It's giving you power, it's giving you strength, but it's also saying that things need to shift both internally, but also how you speak and listen and learn, the things that you choose, and how you connect with the world at large. So there you go. I was trying to get it in under the hour. That's your look at the 12 signs for the week of November 1st through 7th, 2021. Happy birthday again, Scorpio. Like I said, we are going into eclipse season, so I'm doing an eclipse webinar. I do them every eclipse season. Every eclipse season is every 6 months. And so this one will be on November 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It'll be 90 minutes. You can go to my website, empoweringastrology.com, to register, or go to the show notes. I'm also starting my Module 1 teaching, so also in the show notes, if you really want to do more of a structured, formal learning astrology, this is the start of the foundation and beginner teaching modules that trying to do so many things. I have Saturn in Virgo, I have a North Node in Virgo, so it's part of my work here just to do more Virgo in the world. But here we are, teaching. Teaching is Virgo. Virgo is one of the teaching signs. So that said, yes, it is my birthday season, but mine's on the 17th, so we got some time. But it's kind of surreal that it's Scorpio season. I feel like it's September, just a little bit colder, a little bit darker. It doesn't feel like my birthday season, but then again, it's been a strange year. But thank you all for joining me for another live look at the astrology. Again, this was for November 1st through 7th, 2021. My name is Katie Sweetman. You can book a consultation with me. Go to empoweringastrology.com. Many of you are my clients who are on the live chat. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify. But it was really nice to see you all this week. I guess my puppy did not want to be part of the live broadcast, but until next week, take care. Bye.